So let's start right there, and let's talk about the biggest story of the day, which I think inarguably is what's been happening in the war in Ukraine. And we're going to be looking more deeply here in a second. So Ukraine is surrendering. I mean, that is the word. Tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are laying down their weapons and surrendering to Russian troops. This is amazing, right? This is a story the Western media does not want you to see. Over the past few weeks, we've been tracking countless reports of Ukrainian men surrendering before they are to be killed. So you're going to see, like, take a look at your screen here. So these are night vision scenes in Ukraine, night vision capturing many of the moments as Russian forces surround these targets. There they are in the brush. You can see them coming out of the brush, and they're making announcements. Come out, live, or you will be killed. Thankfully, these men are coming out and they are surrendering. Just look at the screen. They're waving the white. Anything you have white that you can wave in your hands right now, please do it. And we will make sure that you are safe, you are taken care of. How many of you are there? Tell us how many of you there are. Don't lie to us. Come out, lay down your weapons, and you will not be hurt. You will not be killed.
Now, we have brought you reports that Russia has been dropping pamphlets to tell them exactly how to surrender so that they don't get hurt. We also know that from NATO reports, from leaked documents, that if they surrender as a unit, they cannot be prosecuted for desertion. So that's why we see them coached with almost identical language as they get in a room. They say, we are all together. They explain that we are command that has been left without weapons, without any training, and we're stranded here and we surrender. There's a formula to this, and we've seen it over and over again. You wouldn't see it if you're only watching CNN, but we've shown it to you.
Oh, no, the Western media is not going to show you this story. I guarantee you, you're not going to see this story on the front pages of the BBC tomorrow, CNN, the New York Times, or other places. You're not going to see reports of the thousands who have been laying down their weapons over the past few days. And here is Rabatino and another surrender that's happening. You can see them coming out of the brush, nighttime, night vision goggles. Again, I mean, they literally could be mowed down at a second's notice, and they're being given refuge. Drop your weapons, lay down your Western weapons, lay down on your face, make sure that you're not having any grenades, and tell us where you're coming from. Is there anyone else left in your, in your troop? If there is, call them out, and we will check you to make sure that there's no other explosives on you, and then you will be given shelter, you will be given food, and you will be given medical attention.
But here are some of the 5 points that were published in Jacques Baud, the NATO specialist's book. He says, here are the ways that you surrender safely. This is what Russia is telling Ukraine. Abandon your position and leave the combat zone. Isolate nationalist and SBU, I guess, snitches, for lack of a better word. Record a video message to your command. Say that you've been abandoned by your commanders. And it says, be careful not to cross paths with nationalists whose task is to prevent you from surrendering or backing down by executing you.
Well, we've shown you videos here on the show, and we've been demonetized for showing it. But where you have the nationalists, you have Azov leaders basically shooting and executing Ukrainian soldiers who say that they don't want to fight anymore, so they're being shot. We've shown you those videos here, and that's absolutely what's been happening. And those who have managed to escape have told those stories about what has been happening. We showed you one horrible video where, yes, a commander or somebody ended up pulling a grenade and throwing it right into the room where these defectors were held up. So this afternoon, of course, here's the report. And we'll just go through this article in more detail here on exactly the numbers here, saying, and this is the Gateway Pundit, better call Volga, 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers surrendering as a result of this Volga radio frequency. 10,000 Ukrainian soldiers have surrendered to the Russians using a special 1.49.200 Volga radio frequency, which has been operating since mid-summer. So this is a radio frequency, and you can see it here spray painted on walls all over the place, inside of buildings. Surrender. Use this radio frequency only if you plan to surrender. Let us know your position, and then you will be taken into custody. You will be provided with all necessary medical care, and you will be fed and given food. And of course, this is all coming right now as winter is setting in and getting very, very close to inclement weather arriving within the next 30 days. And so we know what's coming. These poor men who have been dragged into NATO's war, sitting in trenches, freezing to death with no food. I mean, we saw it last year, for crying out loud. Now imagine a year later.
We saw it in May of 2022 in Mariupol, when many units of the Ukrainian army just surrendered and refused to fight. So that did not get better. And so many of them were dragged against their will anyways, but the will continues to mount as they realize this is a losing battle. I'm not going to die for this.
So here's a new video again. Again, these are, I could show you 100 videos. I'm just choosing to show you a few here that came in this afternoon. And here is one from another group of soldiers who used the Volga frequency. They dialed in and said, okay, we're done. We're done. We surrender. And then, of course, you can hear the Russian soldiers asking, you know, how many of you are there? Where are you? Get down on the ground and you will live. Here, watch. You know, asking, what is your unit number? Who are you? Be honest. Tell us who you are. So come out, put your heads down, hands up, drop your weapons, drop your Western weapons, your U.S. weapons, lay down. The amount of images we've seen over the past few days of all these weapons, these Western weapons, is amazing. Yeah, where are you from? What Western weapons are being used in this? Think about it. Your American tax dollars piling up. You know, here are just a few of the captured weapons over the past 24 hours. So you can just see, Western weapons lined up there, ready to go after full stocks of ammo and everything else that won't be used to kill people. But it's your American tax dollars hard at work right there, captured. So you want to send more armored vehicles? You want to send more, Abrams tanks? As Russia has said, you want to send more of these Leopard tanks, Abrams tanks. The moment they arrive, they will be destroyed. So American tax dollars, you want to send it? We'll destroy it. These men can survive if they come out and lay down their weapons and end this craziness and stop being thrown into the meat grinder. And surrendering these forces, of course, providing vital details to the Russian army, by the way. So as these men have been captured, they've been telling where their positions are. Here's just one example. A Ukrainian officer who voluntarily surrendered yesterday gave Russian military secret information about spotters of the Ukraine armed forces and asked specifically where they are. He's then given food because he hasn't had food. So here he is telling where they've been located.
Еще раз представься. Капитан, командир роты морского батальона. Отдельно морского бригада. Вооруженных сил Украины. Как попал в плен? Добровольно решил сдаться. Добирался до вас 2 суток. Понятно. Что за трофейчик ты нам принес? Телефон, содержащий данные по офицерскому составу. От основным руководящим лицам на южном направлении. Показывай. Куда? Папка на рабочем столе, она единственная. Вот это? С документами, так точно. Дальше. Здесь в хранилище документов. Назад хранилище документов. Здесь надо, где основные, нажать, чтобы отобразились все папки, в том числе и скрытые. Нажимайте основные. Да? Так точно, да, нажимайте. Дальше. Все. Здесь папка request.
So if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, he's looking at a folder with his unit's positions and the 10th Army Corps position containing all of its commanding officers' positions and data on it that he provided upon his surrender. All of the positions. The position, the type of activity they're carrying out. Guys, like...
And what he said was, I voluntarily surrendered, and it took me 2 days to get here.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what a terrifying 2 days that was. That is like the stuff of a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Right? And we're pretending like it's not real.
Well, do you remember a few weeks ago we showed it here on the show, which was the video that Russia released, and it was propaganda by all accounts, but it was a Russian piece of propaganda that said, you have a choice, and it showed a Ukrainian soldier running and getting shot in the head. And said, you have a choice. You can either die like this or you can surrender. Are you sick and tired of dressing up as a woman to escape, trying to hide? your family can't bribe officers to get you out of this war, you have a choice. Just put up your arms and surrender. So they put out this video, they put out this radio frequency, and tens of thousands of Ukrainians are taking them up on it. Now, of course, you're not going to see this in the Western media, and they're not going to share this with you because it would undermine the NATO message of wanting to prolong this war, to throw more Ukrainian men into the meat grinder. And right now, of course, Ukraine is out of men. So they've launched now the full process as we head into the winter of launching campaigns to conscript women. So the campaigns for bringing women into the front lines is the next big phase of this. So enough is enough. Again, the Hill even, Western media knows that we are heading into the winter. Here's the Hill. Clock ticks in Ukraine's offensive as bad weather approaches. And by the way, what is Zelensky doing in all of this right now? Pissing off India, pissing off Poland, pissing off NATO. I don't know, asking NATO for more weapons, more money.
Pretending he was never in Canada.
Yeah, pretending he was never there. No journalists, as Max Blumenthal earlier today tweeted, there's over 100 hack journalists that are in Kiev right now, Western-backed hack journalists, that none of them will ask the question of Zelensky, like this Nazi, literally right there, this Ukrainian Nazi in parliament. Anything to say on that? No, silence, silence. No Western journalists will ask them that, will ask the regime that. So what is Zelensky doing right now? Well, he's meeting with Jens Stoltenberg, the head of NATO. He's, of course, asking for more money and more weapons. Watch.
Реальність є доказом, що членство України в Альянсі буде абсолютно природнім і таким, що посилює і Україну, і НАТО. Сьогодні ми обговорили з паном генеральним секретарем всі ключові оборонні питання, які потребують уваги, реальну ситуацію на полі бою та потреби українських воїнів.
Yeah. Okay. So we need to join NATO immediately is the message.
I love how he says that Ukraine would strengthen NATO. I mean, that's a poison apple.
Right.
That I don't understand how that calculation works.
Well, of course, they haven't added them to NATO yet. Is this going to be the moment now when you're seeing all of these Ukrainian men surrendering, when they have no army left? Who is going to fight? American men? Are Americans going to be drafted to go and fight this now? This is the hot war that we knew was coming. This is perhaps the moment. This was maybe perhaps all the plan all along, to turn Ukraine into a NATO staging ground for war. As we learned over the past 48 hours, as the Biden administration has basically said, we want to turn Ukraine into a weapons manufacturing hub for NATO. So this is probably all part of the plan. And I really terrified at how this ends. Because either that ends with a full surrender, it ends with peace talks, and it ends now, or this is about to get a whole lot worse as we head into this winter. Let us know your thoughts on this in the comments below. Where do we go from here?